Okay, in this video, so in the previous video, we talked about the quadratic formula and where it came from, mostly where it came from because that takes a while. And in this video, we're going to actually practice using it. We're going to actually put it to use, right? So just so we have a little bit of reference, the quadratic formula goes like this. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. And again, this is referring to a quadratic in the standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. This is where I get a, b, and c in the formula respectively. So let's go ahead and try doing this. So first word of advice, every time that we use the quadratic formula, we need to be in standard form, right? So on this first example, we see clearly we are not in standard form because we are equal to 1 and not 0. Easy fix though, I'm just going to subtract 1 from both sides. So now I have x squared minus 2x minus 1 equals 0. Next thing we're going to want to do, especially if you're new to this, if you're new to using the quadratic formula, you always want to take the time to write out, well, just what in the hell are A, B, and C? A in this case is going to be 1, right? There's no coefficient for the x squared, so it's understood to be a 1. B is going to be 2. This guy here is B. And C is going to be this negative 1. And now we're just going to plug into the quadratic formula accordingly. Very simple. So x is going to be equal to negative b, right? So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. All of this divided by 2 times a. A lot of this is trivial and negligible. And, well, okay, I'll tell you something that's not negligible, right? C is negative 1, yes? And I put a positive 1. So that could have been disastrous. I would have had to start the video all over again. Okay, so always make sure you're not going too fast like I am. Sometimes I'm an idiot. But anyway, you plug in your values accordingly. And now if you wanted to, you could just enter this all into the calculator right now. The hardest part is writing it all down for the most part if you've got a good enough calculator. For the sake, though, of like being a little bit of a math snob, I'm going to do this all by hand and then throw in the result into the calculator. So first, I'm going to start off by taking care of some trivialities, right? So negative 2, that's just a 2, plus or minus negative 2 squared, so that's a 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 1 is going to be positive 4, so this becomes a plus 4. 2 times 1 is just 2, and this already is much simpler than it was. So now I've just got 2 plus or minus the square root of 8 now, right? 4 plus 4. All of this divided by 2. And again, I'm a math snob. I'm going to factor this radical. So the square root of 8 can be rewritten as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, or just 2 square root of 2. Okay, and you can see why I was itching to do that because I can cancel all the 2's out. Right, so now I'm going to have 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 2, all divided by 2. Every one of these factors of 2 cancels, and we're left with 1 plus or minus the square root of 2. Right, so just to prove a point, I'm going to enter in the simplified solution and the one that we started with, and you're just going to see we're going to get the same thing. So here on my calculator, first I'm going to do the positive. So first I'm going to do 1 plus the square root of 2. That's going to give me one solution, so 2.41. So I can go ahead and write that down, 2.41. And let's do the other one. So all I'm going to do is copy and paste. So you see how I did that? So I just push up, highlight the line on this calculator that I want, right? This is using a TI Inspire. Anyone that's watching that doesn't know what kind of calculator this is. And then I hit enter. It'll automatically copy and paste it so I don't have to do it again. I'm going to delete that plus, change it to a minus, bam. Now I have the conjugate. So I get negative 0.41. And those are my two solutions. And again, just to prove a point, I'm going to enter it in the way that I started. Okay, so big fraction, so control divide, negative 2, and then we're going to do plus first, and then square root, so control x squared, and then we do negative 2 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. And holy dog crap, I get the same thing. And then if I want to, if I was so inclined, I could just copy and paste again like I showed you a second ago, delete this plus and change it to a minus, hit enter, and I get the exact same negative 0.41. Okay, so pretty straightforward how to use the quadratic formula, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and do another example. And I'm already past 5 minutes just on this really simple example in this video. And I'm trying really hard to not go past 5 minutes on videos. Let me look for an example. I don't think I want to do too many. Okay, so let's do an example that has bigger, uglier numbers. So let's do this guy right here. And let's see what happens. Okay, so x is equal to negative b. So let's go ahead and write this down. So a is 16, b is negative 32, c is negative 11. And we're just plugging into our formula, right? And again, our formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. I don't know why I used parentheses that time. Whatever. Okay, so x is equal to negative b, so that would be positive 32, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 32 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. So this is one of those instances where I don't really honestly want to be a math snob, and I'm not going to. These numbers are too gnarly, but I've got all the numbers where they belong, right? So negative b, so negative 32 gives me that positive 32, b squared, right? Now, you may be wondering, well, why did I put a positive 32 when b is clearly a negative? When we square something, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, right? If I do this and put it in parentheses, right, it's still going to just give me a positive outcome. So it's kind of just, it doesn't matter. Over here, 100% it matters, right? I have to be careful with my sign. Negative 32. That is just kind of redundant, right? I know it's going to be a positive 32. Okay, so I'm not going to be hypocritical. I guess I'll leave it as negative 32 all squared like that in parentheses. Anyway, so control divide, we have positive 32. We're going to do the plus first because that's just always the easiest place to start in my brain, at least. Negative 32 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a, right? And we just double check and make sure. So b is negative 32. We see that. A is 16. C is negative 11. And a again is 16. We've got it. Hit enter. And we get our effectively 2.30. So we know one of our solutions is about 2.30, right? And enter in another one. So let's do the negative one. So I'm just going to go through and change the plus to a minus. And we get negative 0.30. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for the examples that I'm going to do. I am going to talk about this number 6 on here, though. So the quadratic formula is really easy to use. I don't think I need to go into too much more depth on how, quote unquote, to use it. It's really straightforward. But we do need to talk about this. What happens whenever this part right here, this is called the discriminant, and I'm fixing to do another video, a separate video over this discriminant. But anyway, so what happens whenever the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac is less than 0? For the sake of this video, I'm going to keep it short. We will get a non-real answer. Non-real answer, right? That just means imaginary, or another way of saying it would be complex. Okay, and I'll get into that in the next video. But anyway, that does it for this video. Using the quadratic formula is that simple. If you have any questions over it, shoot me an email. Otherwise, you know where to find me. Goodbye.